when Ariarne Titmus stretched into the blue for that unfathomably long, lithe, final stroke in the pool in Tokyo, winning the 400-meter freestyle crown from five-time Olympic gold medalist Katie Ledecky, it was hard to know where to look. "I won't be here without her," she said. "She set the standard." Or at the antics of her instantly, famously kooky coach, Dean Boxall, in the stands. It took Steve back to the first national championship race Ariarne, or Arnie as her family affectionately calls her, won, at 13, representing her home state of Tasmania. "I remember when Arnie touched the wall," he tells The Weekly, "we were going nuts cheering, and these Victorian kids sitting in the stands in front of us turned around and looked at us, as if to say, 'What? A Tasmanian's not meant to win.'" Now, at 21, she'd beaten the best in the world. And this time everyone knew her name. Next came the Tokyo victories, usurping the American star again in both the 400 and 200-meter events. And finally, Ariarne broke Katie's 400-meter freestyle world record at the Australian Championships this May, cementing one of swimming's great friendly rivalries and fulfilling a childhood dream, not necessarily to be the best in the world, but to be the best swimmer she could be, which right now is pretty much the same thing. Today, Ariarne, Robin, Steve, Mia and the family pooch, Lucy, have gathered on the back porch of their Brisbane home to chat with The Weekly, and as so often happens when families come together, that starts with some reminiscing. Although her family has put down roots in the Sunshine State now, Ariarne is proud of the fact she's made it all the way to the top of her game from the tiny town of Launceston in northern Tasmania. "Mia and I had such freedom. When we were small, we used to dress up in our fairy dresses and run off to the bush. We had a driveway up to another block of land above our house. We'd take our pillows, find a little posse, and be like princesses in the bush." "Mia and I shared our first pony, his name was Tycho, and we started to get into riding more and more, and we got more horses and Mum got horses. In the end though, Mia's main games were athletics, where she was a regional record holder, and dance, mostly because the training was later in the day. Ariarne and Dad are the early risers," she chuckles. "Mum and I, and my paws, we could sleep for days." Ariarne was not only up at Sparrows, she seemed at home, from day one, in the pool. "I still remember her first swimming lesson," Steve chuckles, "at a tiny indoor pool in suburban Launceston. Ariarne kept putting her head under the water. The instructor got really annoyed and kept saying, 'Ariarne, stop putting your head under the water, we'll get to that shortly.' I remember it as if it were yesterday because it was one of those light bulb moments." Ariarne had this natural breaststroke, Robin recalls. "Mia was better with freestyle in those days, but Ariarne would glide through the water. I'd look at her and say to Steve, 'Gee, Ariarne has a good breaststroke for a 5-year-old.' Both of them got involved in this little squad and they'd go a couple of times a week after school and learn the technique. Ariarne has nothing but happy memories of those early squad days, and they are archetypal Aussie childhood memories too. "We used to do club trips to Hobart for competitions," she says. "I got third in that. I got this little trophy and that's probably my first swimming trophy." There were weekends when the family would scoot back and forth across the state to get to swimming comps and athletics meets and to ferry the girls and their horses to gymkhanas. But then, at 14, she won 3 gold medals at the national championships and was selected for the Junior World Championships team. There was never a moment's thought that Ariarne might go to boarding school. But there were deeper concerns too. When things are going well and you're concentrating on school and training, it's all fine, Robin says. And while they've never had any immediate concerns about Ariarne, both Robin and Steve were aware of reports of physical and emotional abuse right across the sporting arena. As parents, Robin says, you need to do your due diligence and you need to be that supportive parent and create an environment where, if anything were to happen that they weren't comfortable with, they'd talk to you. "We were united on that," Robin says. And in 2015, the Titmus clan traveled north on what they were determined would be an epic adventure. It took time, but both parents reignited their careers in Brisbane, Steve in TV news and Robin in recruitment. The girls started at new schools, and Ariarne began training at St. Peter's Western Swim Club in Indooroopilly, with coach Dean Boxall setting her heart on the Olympics. "In terms of my swimming life," she says, "nothing's changed. My routine is exactly the same. But one big change is how well known I am now. I meet people and sometimes they tell me where they were when they saw me race at the Olympics, and that's really special, so I loved that part of it." Not always quite so welcome has been the sudden erosion of her privacy. There have been other instances of unwanted attention too. "When I got home from the Olympics I knew my life would change, but I don't think I knew how drastically and how soon," she says. "People want to know more about me personally, which I'm fine with. Ariarne has managed to meet another of her idols, the Spanish tennis star Rafael Nadal, whose career she has followed since she was 14. She was invited into his box at this year's Australian Open and, like any other fan, says, "It was probably one of the highlights of my life." Ches just a normal guy who still lives in the same village he grew up in, comes from a normal family, and just has a massive passion for his sport. She has a friend coming for dinner. We carry on chatting as she busies herself with pots and pans. She's a fabulous cook, says her dad. Ariarne often cooks dinner for us all. She cooks our family Christmas and Easter dinners, and for birthdays, adds Mia. It all started on sleepovers with her grandmother when Ariarne was 3 years old. That's where my cooking started. I suggest someone needs to alert Celebrity MasterChef, and Ariarne is all for it. I reckon I could actually do quite well, though I don't often follow recipes. I wing it. Finding time for a stint on TV between here and the Paris Olympics could, however, be a challenge. It's different in every situation, she ventures. If I went to the Olympics and didn't win gold in the 400, but I swam the time that I did, I would've still been happy, because I would have swum the best that I could. It just hadn't been enough on the day. But if I'd gone to the Olympics and not swum what I thought I was capable of, I think that's a different scenario. It's great to be part of this new golden era of swimming, she says. I feel like I've been really lucky and am in an era where the team culture is the best it's ever been. At the Olympics, we were so happy for each other. I remember, on the last day of finals, I got to watch from the stands. We're all just such great teammates, and I'm so lucky to be in a sport where that's the case, and I don't think it's like that everywhere. It seems the happiness in the team is rubbing off on the rest of Ariarne's life too. This afternoon, she's on the tail end of that bout of COVID and still fighting off fatigue, but even so, she rarely stops smiling. Prior to the Olympics, I was so adamant about doing well that I put everything else on the back burner. Now I've got some balance in my life, and that's made me really happy. And I'm enjoying training more than ever too. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and now I'm swimming to see what more I can do. You can read this story and many others in the September issue of the Australian Women's Week.